Firstly, thank you all for coming. I hope you all get your pack okay. And yeah, thank you for spending your Sunday evening learning a wee bit more about Cask Share. Hope we have some fun. We've got quite a nice lineup. We've been really looking forward to it. So as I was saying earlier, Cask Share is our industry first platform. There's no one else at the moment that sort of does what we do. So it does take a wee bit of explaining to get your head around, but hopefully in the next sort of 15 minutes or so, I can give you a better understanding of what we're all about. So we have been sitting around for about 3 years now within one of our other platforms, Craft Whisky Club, that we're currently sort of winding down as this one takes the limelight. We've always planned for this one to sort of lead the way, but we kind of wanted to launch it at the right time, when we sort of had it built and a bit more established. Annoyingly, that lined up with COVID. So we did launch that at sort of the start of March this year, which meant we did have about 6 months that we couldn't get out and about and talk to people. We have done a few online tastings and they do work quite well. But this is just, when we're kind of getting into gear and trying to get the name out there and, allow people to kind of understand what we're about. So we have set out to essentially democratize single cask whiskey. We sell by the bottle reservations in maturing casks. As whiskey geeks, we've always loved the idea of buying a full cask of whiskey at our favorite distilleries. However, there is a barrier of entry, which is about 10 to 20,000 pounds that none of us at the moment can really justify spending on a full cask of whiskey. So that's kind of where the idea of Cask Share was born. It allows people to interact with their favorite distilleries by buying what is essentially a share in the distillery, a full cask of whiskey, but without having to spend, upwards of £10,000 minimum. So as I said, we sell by the bottle reservations. So at the moment, we've got, about 12 now, actually, distillers on the platform. We just listed 3 new casks on Friday, one from Quila, one from Ben Rinnes, and one from Old Rostu. They're actually quite cool casks, and I advise actually going and checking them out. As I said, they just went live on Friday, so there's still plenty of shares available. We facilitate the sales for distilleries. We don't buy the full casks ourselves. We do this because we do want to represent the same experience of buying a full cask. Obviously, we kind of feel as though that's the best way to engage with distilleries. But as I said, there is that barrier to entry. So we're sort of opening up the single cask market to the general whiskey consumer. So we've got a really nice lineup. I hope I've kind of explained that okay. If you guys have any questions at all about sort of Cask Share, stick them in the chat or just sort of shout them out. We kind of like to open a bit of dialogue. So please just feel free to sort of ask any questions, or as I said, stick them in the chat and we'll sort of get around to them. Our lineup today, we have 4 casks, or cask samples, should I say, all available on the Cask Share platform. Actually, all available bar one, should I say. The Glen Murray was just bottled, and we have actually sold every single share in advance of that cask. So annoyingly, if you don't already have a share, this might be your only chance to taste it, unless you make friends with someone who already has a share, maybe convince them to give you a wee bit of theirs. The other 3 casks we have here today is our Ardent American 6-year-old. We have 3 Ardent American casks at the moment. This was the first one to be bottled. We bottled it about 4 weeks ago, and the shares have just been shipping out at the end of last week and the start of this week. We have another ex-bourbon cask from Ardent American bottling at 8 years old. So in 2 years' time, then in 4 years' time, we have the third sister cask from that batch, and that'll be bottling at 10 years old. You may notice a slight change to the lineup from on the website. We don't have the 18-month Cab Sauv from the Isle of Raasay. Instead, we have our 8-year-old Ben Riach, being a first full Marsala cask. There's a couple of reasons we did this. Firstly, I know you guys have done an Isle of Raasay tasting before. So I didn't want half the lineup to be Isle of Raasay. Obviously, all the components of the Isle of Raasay single malt, the 6 to Sia casks are available on the platform. But as I said, I know you guys have done it before, and I wanted to give you guys a bit more of a sort of idea of the array of casks we have. The other reason is it's quite young. It's 18 months old. It's taken a lot of sort of jammy, fruity flavors, but not quite those oak flavors. So it's quite punchy. So I decided to, swap that out for what I think is actually a better cask, which is the Ben Riach 8-year-old. We featured that in a tasting a few weeks ago, and it was actually probably about half the group's favourite. So hopefully you guys think the same. So yeah, before I keep whittering on, please,
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions at all about Cask Share, I'll take a wee minute just to answer them just now.
Ewan, how does it work with regards to, like, do you have to sell the whole cask before you can, like, split it down and send it out, or?
Good question. No. So when the cask gets listed on the platform, a bottling date will already be decided. We list casks that have just been filled at that time. So, for instance, we've got quite a few Isla Rassi casks that when they went up on the platform, that was the point of them being filled. So they're going to be in there a while. So we let the distillery also choose what age they want that bottled at. So, if it's a rye cask, it's probably about 10 to 12 years. One of the Chinkopins, 5 years, sort of, etc. So we make conservative estimates on the outturn. So if we think our cask is going to yield about 250 bottles, we'll list 200 bottles on the platform. And obviously you can, reserve those bottles until essentially they're all gone. However, there is a buffer zone. We do this in case there's any issues at the time of bottling, breakages, stuff goes missing in transit. So we have that little, buffer essentially. So we don't have to get in touch with folk and say, I'm really sorry, but here's a refund. You can't get your share because obviously it's all gone. So yeah, there's no wait until the whole cask sold. If it gets to the bottling date, there's still bottles left. We'll bottle the cask and we'll probably just list those available bottles on the platform, or use them as tasting samples.
Can you have, like, personalised labels, or does it have to be how they come kind of thing?
As it stands, we don't have personalised labels. It's probably something for the next sort of year or so, but we have sort of chatted about the idea of, just sort of maybe being able to put your name or something on the label at the time of bottling. But as it stands, unfortunately, no.
For like a whiskey club, so if there's a whiskey club maybe making a batch buy as a Christmas thing for the club, and then that would, there'd be a possibility there. So.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If down the line you did a certified originals cask and you kind of split it between just members, if you could have like a label or something done for that with the logo on or something. But that's for maybe a later discussion.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely something we've chatted about. It's something that we think would be quite cool. Some customers have actually got in touch already asking the same thing, and it is definitely something we'll have at some point, but probably maybe not within the next, I would say maybe within the next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, by next Christmas, we might be able to do something like that.
Awesome. I'll come back to you this time next year.
Next one, yeah.
Will we get started? Because I'm getting a bit dry, so.
I would love to. Yeah, I'll hand over to Scott. I'm sure you guys all know him, and he can walk us through this nice lineup we've got here.
Yeah, no, look, thanks, Ian. So, so my name's Scott. So, work on cask development, so getting casks on site. If any of you do own casks and want to list them, let us know. If any of us have casks. So, we don't just work directly with distillers. We also do work with independent bottlers and individuals that own casks. So. So lineup. What we'll do is we'll start with the Ben Ria, the Marsala cask. I think it would be good. I've done some tasting notes. We'll go through it, have a look at them on the website. I think we should just chat through them. I think keep it nice and informal and see what you think. They're pretty unique casks, actually. The Marsala is very different. So I'd also like to mention that they're 5 CLs and their cask strength. So quite a lot of liquid. Wouldn't recommend drinking the whole 5 CL in a winner. I'm sure some of you as will. I know David will anyway. Absolute animal. Let's have a look. See what you guys think.
Scott, I've just made you host as well, just in case. Nice.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, man. So you should be, you're familiar with the distilleries, Ben Ria, just south of Elgin. Brown Foreman owned now, along with Glenglass and Glendronach. Quite a lot of expressions that they have. For this one, very, very unique in terms of the Marsala cask. My tasting notes that I got actually were tinned apricots and burnt brown sugar. I find it very, very funky. Almost hard to place. It's not the traditional kind of tasting notes you'd expect from a single malt. So, cheers, Solange. It's very unique, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've clearly drunk a lot of whiskey. Can't actually think of one that's similar to this.
To me, it has this kind of like weird balance between like these lighter, fruitier flavors, but also that little bit of weight and heft to the spirit. Like it's not a light spirit in itself.
Yeah, it's fruity, but almost, yeah, it's very sweet. Almost like I said, tinned apricots was a tasting that I got last night. I think sweet kind of fruits, syrupy,
like a
quite
dirty,
syrupy.
yeah, like a dirty fruit.
Yeah, I actually got an interesting tasting note last night as well. A fresh towel. So yeah, guys, look, like I said, I'll give my tasting notes. I'll read the ones out from the website. I just want to kind of hear feedback. You know, what we're really trying to show here is unique single casks that are different, a bit, you know, interesting bottlings from, you know, Raze, which, you know, I work for, through to, you know, our Beaky casks are pretty unique. And even this, you know, Benriach's an established distillery, but I can't think of you getting the Marsala cask anywhere else at the moment. So on the website, Marsala finish woods brings a fruity, floral, sweet style whiskey. The fruit and floral and sweet. It says there's a patch of spice, but I'm not getting that myself.
My tongue.
Spirity oak should do a Marsala cask, don't you? It doesn't taste like this though.
I wonder if any of this.
Oh no, it's Moscatel, isn't it? Not Marsala. Sorry. Oh, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but yeah.
Alistair Day, who did the official vetting of this cask, described it as malty Biscoff biscuits. Anyone getting that?
Good now, yeah. Quite drying as well on the palate.
Yeah.
Very dry. That's what I've got here as well for the finish.
Mm-hmm.
Custard creams, I got that just as it popped up on the screen. Just on the nose, like, not on the palate. But
Peach a good one. I think you generally find that with wine or fortified wine casks, other than the kind of sherries, that they are quite drying. I've just added a touch of water as well.
So out of curiosity, is this a like finishing Marsala, or is this a full maturation Marsala?
No, it was finished. It was put into Marsala in June 2019.
Brilliant. Cheers.
Yeah, so bourbon cask before.
Sorry, Scott.
It was bourbon cask, which obviously it was the most likely to be, but just started clarify it.
And this will be bottling in 2 years' time from now, so it'll be 10 years old at the time of bottling.
Nice.
So it's quite a long finish, really. It's not, you know, it'll take the vast majority of its flavour from the Marsala.
what's the intended strength when you bottle it? Is it going to be cask strength or?
Yes, the Marsala is going to be bottled at cask strength. The vast majority of the casks on the platform we bottled at cask strength. We currently have a few that aren't. For example, our Berclady casks that were given to us by Mark Renier, they've been bottled at 46%. Other than that, there's a couple of Rassy Chinkopins, I think, that are bottling around sort of 46. But yeah, the Benriach will be bottling at cask strength, which at that age is probably about sort of 57%.
And can I just say as well, on the Berclady casks, they're absolutely wild. You should go and have a look at them on the website. They're. I mean, he's had some journey with those casks. They've been in all sorts at different points, and
it is pretty crazy. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
They're from his private collection.
So. Should have stuck some in here for this tasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we actually hope to get some of that drawn down soon. Yeah, for future tastings, I think they'll be pretty funky.
Probably do a couple more drams, but maybe 3 CLs. These are quite big samples.
They are, yeah.
I mean, if we flow through them in the next hour and you drank a lot, you'd be flying.
Yeah, I do. I like this one. I must admit, it's up my alley. This one.
You know, David joined me in Razzie. I know he can fly through the drams. Came to the tasting room. Yeah, cinnamon. Yeah, a wee bit. It's just, I mean, the water is actually, it's made it more intense on the sweetness on the nose.
I think with a lot of these cask samples, just a wee drop of water does open them up quite a lot. I would definitely advise, and even for the Art and American a little bit further down the line, a wee drop of water does just sort of really open it up.
Mm-hmm. I think the water helps with the dryness and the finish as well, actually.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of putting water in whiskey, but that works for me. That
you'd inject it if you could, wouldn't you? Good cask strengths.
Yeah.
Another 2 years in that Marsala cask will be interesting to see what happens.
I think it'd be quite nice.
Yeah. So yeah, no, look, I think it's a good kind of introduction to what the different kind of casks are and how they are a bit different. Has everyone kind of been on the website and had a look as well? It's pretty detailed. It talks about the distilleries, the bottlings. It gives all the kind of things you'd want from it too. So bottling strength, the style. So if it's peated, if it's done in a grain distillery or single malt.
Have you found one of the biggest hurdles is actually getting across to people what it is that you're trying to do, or has there been any kind of not backlash, but any hold off of kind of thinking what you're doing is right or wrong?
Ewan, do you want to talk from the consumer perspective, and I'll talk about the kind of the distillery side?
100%. Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. I think the fact that it is such a sort of new, unusual idea, people do kind of have quite a hard time sort of getting their head around it at first. I think often buying into single casks is associated with investment. So the first thing that jumps to a lot of people's mind is, investing in casks. We do steer away from that idea. We like to be for the whiskey lover, and it's the idea of getting what honestly probably is often used for investment, buying single cask whiskey. So unfortunately doesn't get into the hands of whiskey lovers. It's our way of sort of allowing people to access and drink, the whiskey that comes from these single casks. So yeah, there is a wee bit of sort of explaining you have to do to kind of get people's head around, it is something new. And but after, we do these whiskey shows and, people kind of all sort of say a similar thing, so like investment and stuff like that. And, after having a sort of quick conversation, you do kind of see people kind of gradually sort of getting their head around it. So, hopefully the more we sort of get out there and the more tastings like this we do, the concept will get a bit more solidified. So yeah, that people kind of just understand a little bit more sort of what we're about.
It almost seems like one of those ideas that it hasn't been done before seems strange, doesn't it?
That's actually one of the things we hear the most. It's kind of like when the penny kind of drops, people kind of get their head around what it is. It's kind of, almost a unanimous, why has this not been done before? And to be honest, I don't really have an answer for them. I don't know why it's not been done before, but I'm happy to be a part of the group that's doing it at the start.
Absolutely. It sounds great.
And I mean, it's the same kind of thing with the distilleries and individuals. It's explaining what it is the hardest part. And once you get past that, that's when you can get really exciting casks like from our Beaky and Holyrood to put casks up that have long lead times. I think showing a bit of flexibility in the website is important. So there's everything from casks that are being bottled right now through to, I mean, Holyrood, I think the one with the longest lead time is 2031.
Yeah.
So, for people who like to plan, there's options there too. Yeah, will we crack on to the Glen Murray so that we've got something in our glass constantly? That was a good sign. So yeah, ex-red wine cask. I actually don't know. Do you know the wine cask that it was in? Yeah.
So we've actually tried to figure that out a couple of times, and we don't. When the cask was acquired by Alistair, it's a barrique, but the only thing by it is ex-red wine.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah, good one to kind of move on to before we hit the PT ones. That's the Benria.
The nose on this is amazing.
Yeah.
It went into the red wine barrique in July 2018.
It's another one with a relatively long finish.
So just on like having the Benriach and then also going onto lists, is there any, especially with like having the bottling dates almost set out in advance, is there any concern about, for example, with these heavy cask influences of these first two, that by the time you got around to bottling it, the influence would be almost too much?
So yeah, there's always a bit of estimating involved in terms of figuring out the bottling date. However, as I sort of mentioned before, we're not actually buying in the cask. The cask will live up at the distilleries. So, for instance, with the Glen Murray, that sits up in Isla Rassay, and Alistair Day, who curated it, looks after it. So he'll actually regularly sample the cask, and we've not had to do it yet. But if one day, if Alistair goes up, for instance, and samples the Benriach, and he says, you know what, I would give that 1 more year instead of 2, we'd probably have a discussion at that point whether it's worth reaching out to, all the customers that own shares in that cask and saying, look, we can maybe get this to you a year earlier, or the other way around, maybe it's going to take another year just to kind of hit the its optimum sort of flavour. However, as I said, we've not actually had to do that yet. And, Alistair, just for example, is, he's pretty good at sort of telling sort of at least the year that the cask will be ready. But as I said, we will obviously sort of move with how the cask turns out. We won't just stick to our guns. If we taste it and something's got 4 more years and they're saying, no, that is spot on right now, we would think about taking it out earlier and letting everyone know that they're actually getting their share a wee bit sooner.
No, brilliant. Just was curious.
No, it's a good question. I think, honestly, we do like our whiskey. So it's run by people who, like you guys. So we'll show flexibility in that. We'll show flexibility with the distilleries. Some will bottle in their own bottle design for Cask Share. We've got our bottles. And it's really about getting these whiskies in the hands of people who will enjoy them. Because, I'm sure we've all been on auction sites and been a bit pissed off. When you can't get a hold of a bottle you really want. So this kind of hopefully allows people to get, whiskies they want without having to worry about that sort of thing.
Ewan, just going up the Glen Murray to me is amazing. Are you aware of any bottles that were broken during shipment and stuff like that? Because I'm thinking about the buffer that you talked about earlier on. Beans are all sold out.
Luckily, there's been no breakages so far. As I said, we don't really have a buffer in this Glen Murray. So, fingers crossed nothing breaks in shipment. But having said that, we've shipped out the canvas now and the first sort of lot of the Ardent American, or maybe the first sort of small percentage of the Ardent American, and we've had no breakages so far. Good. So, I'm hoping there'll be no breakages for the Glen Murray because, as I said, we don't have much surplus there.
Yeah, so there's nothing in the buffer that you don't need then.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. No, not in this one. Luckily, hopefully only on this one, and we'll have buffers on everyone on all the other casks.
Awesome. I'm only joking with you, mate. It's just because it's so nice. I'd buy a bottle in a heartbeat if you had any.
Yeah, no, we do have some more sort of samples. Maybe I can send you an extra couple of samples later on.
The bottle shop. The bottle shop's quite good as well for. For just having a look at some of these casks that have gone by as well, because like I say, we've probably cut it a bit tight on the Glen Murray, haven't we? But the idea is to have that kind of buffer, and then once they've shipped, we put them on the shop.
Do you have any kind of issues with like the secondary market, people reselling and things like that, or?
Yes and no. It's a wee bit too early to tell at this point in time. But obviously folk are sort of buying shares in the cask to sell them. I think at the end of the day, there's nothing we can really do to sort of stop that. I think it's just the nature of single cask whiskey. There is only, less than 300 bottles that will come from that cask. People drink the bottles. So as time goes on, the value does increase. So I think quite a lot of folk often buy two. They buy one to sort of put on the shelf to sell at a later date, and one to sort of enjoy. We're not too concerned with people sort of buying in to put in the secondary market. I think it's because people don't often buy really large chunks. You know, no one's coming and buying 10% of the cask, you know, go off and sell it. So we sort of get around it sort of that way. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that folk are obviously buying up shares, obviously, to sell them on.
Awesome.
I think because it's a slow bleeder, though, it's less of that. You know, when a distillery releases a single cask, people go bananas. And because there's that high, you know, short-term demand, where because you can buy them over time with Cask Share, there's probably less of it. Ewan, would you say?
You know, that's a really good point. Yeah, there's not that initial, you know, surge of folk running to snatch as many bottles as they can. There is that sort of feeling of, you know, a cask will sit on the platform for, you know, months.
Yeah, it's probably more organic sales in that way, rather than the kind of peak straight to auction house. Yeah, I mean, some good feedback on in the chat there. My one was, yeah, incredible nose. It feels like a first fill, actually. That's an interesting chat from Che, you know, because it is quite heavy influence already. But that's why it's bottled now. So quite alcoholic in terms of the taste. Then you get a burst of berries. I got stewed fruits and mild wine. That was my tasting notes. And then on the website, complex fruity notes from the red wine, along with rich European oak profile. So Alistair's notes, there's quite a lot going on. So spice, sweet, fruity, and rich.
And toasted brioche buns.
Yeah. Just tried it with water. I don't think the water helps this one, actually. Myself, it dials down the alcohol, but it doesn't really open up much more, I don't think. It's one that's probably better at cask strength for me. Yeah, Phil feels the same. Good, cheers.
I think I definitely agree. Maybe it's just because it's not as alcoholic as the rest, just due to, you know, the age it's been in the cask for. But yeah, a wee bit of water. Yeah, I don't really think it opens it up too much more.
Nah. Yeah, one without water, I'd say. I had to buy a bottle of water, actually. I'm in Manchester at the moment, and I literally can't drink the tap water here. It's unbelievable. That anyway,
I've heard horror stories.
I'm a spoiled Highlander. But,
I was going to say, that's just like being from Scotland, isn't it? Just you're spoiled from that.
Yeah. It was bad.
London's definitely the worst for it. I can't even smell the tap water there.
Yeah.
That's good with the aniseed. I'm getting that too. That was an Alistair's notes as well. Blackjack, aniseed flavoured chewy sweets. You wrote down.
Phil, giving Manchester a hard time. I saw actually. I arrived here on Friday, and I'm right next to the warehouse project. So I saw some of the local wildlife on Saturday morning when I went for a drive. It was it was quite the experience. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, we're on the Glenmurray. Probably just about finished, and then we can hit the peaty ones.
Don't add water to it, Mick. It doesn't do it any favours. Just dials up the pepper for me. Pepper and spices just completely take over.
Yeah, the fruits kind of get lost in it, don't they?
Yeah, even just a couple of drops.
Good point.
Yeah, it's like a different beast altogether.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved it without the water. Now it's a bit.
given the number of bottles a cask will give, do you go about saying how many shares are available? Do you go for the lower end of the estimation and then sell more at the end if there's enough few extra bottles? That's exactly right. Ewan kind of deals with that side more, so I mean you can explain it, but you're pretty much bang on.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's 100% right. We do go for the lower end. We try not to move about 30 bottles off. Again, just, for breakages, issues with shipping, etc. Pardon me. But yeah, so what we do with the leftover bottles, if, we don't have to ship them out as, reships, we do list them on what's our bottle shop. Our bottle shop also has, other sort of like cool releases, and we had the Torbeck inaugural release on there. So it's kind of our hub for, cool sort of kind of sought after bottlings, as well as what will be our Cask Share surplus bottles. So if you do miss out on the reservation, you can get in and buy, a share once it's bottled.
More expensive though.
It is more expensive, yeah.
To try and incentivize, the cask purchasing element of it. So
it's more because we obviously we don't actually know how much. We try and sort of leave about 30 bottles, but there could be 8 bottles left over, and we could use them for sample stock. So we don't really want people to kind of think, oh, it's fine, I'll just wait and buy it in the bottle shop, because they might be disappointed to realise that we don't actually have enough, or if we do and they've just missed out. So yeah, we do sort of incentivize people to make the reservations just so they know that they will definitely get a bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, Phil, this one's gone, but there is other examples of red wine casks on the site, I think from Rousey.
Yeah, nice.
That was smooth, Scott. I'll give you
that was good. Cool. I mean, if everyone's happy to move on to Hard America, not sure where people are at. I think
that red wine you're talking about, that's Australian, isn't it? It's a Barossa Valley cask.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a look at the Rousey cask, because I'd like to do something for the guys for later. But there's quite a few. Rousey's obviously supportive. I work with David and Ewan on Cask Share as well, and I think it's a really good concept. I want to get involved because as a whiskey drinker, I think it's pretty cool. So.
We're doing just an aside, we're doing an Instagram live, jumping on Starward Whiskey's Instagram account on Friday. I think it's Friday 9 p.m. It was meant to be last week, but there was technical difficulties. It was with Dave Vitale, the CEO of Starward Whiskey, and Alistair, myself, Alistair, and Dave Vitale are doing a kind of chat about the benefits of red wine maturation. Obviously, Starward that's pretty much their main gig. So so Dave's agreed. He lives in Seattle now, not in Melbourne, and so he's doing this chat with us. So it's not announced, it's just jumping on their account, because we've got some Starward X-Red wine available in the US just for our US customers, and it's related to that. There's the kind of 4 private barrels we've got over there. But yeah, if you're not doing anything at 9 p.m. on Friday, then watching Starward Whiskey's account, you might see something happen.
I suppose one question that probably will be asked is: are you UK? I know you've mentioned US, but are you worldwide? You shipping worldwide, or is it certain territories only?
Yeah, so that's really, so we've been operating Craft Whiskey Club for about 5 years, and that is UK based and US based. So the US customers are we're referring, much like most of the other companies that do similar things. We refer orders to licensed retailers, so we're not actually shipping across the Atlantic. It's whiskey that's already in the US. With the Cask Share, there is ability to ship some across the Atlantic, so that's obviously quite a pricey way of doing things, so it's not ideal. So that's expansion of the Cask Share offering into the US as a way to engage in private casks is something for next year. So about a year from now, we'll have that launched.
Awesome. Brilliant. Cheers for that.
Yes, as well, just talking about that, I guess that's part of the issue you really come across with doing Cask Share. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be single malt Scottish whiskey. So to do, for example, in the US, You do have to ship it over because it needs to be bottled in Scotland first, as opposed to you can't just ship it over there and let them deal with it because laws, FWA.
Yeah, there's that side of it, and then there's also the US side of it in terms of the three-tier liquor system over there. You know, the importer, distributor, retailer tiers. And obviously, there's something like 1,000 craft distillers in the US. There's a lot of bourbons, American whiskey, rye, and stuff. You know, and a lot of what we do at the moment is a lot of what's called barrel picks. Have you heard of store picks, barrel picks? That term is quite a big phase going on in America at the moment, and so we get involved in a lot of that stuff. So we've worked with Westwood, Westland, Sagamore, Breckenridge, Balcones. We've done barrel picks, private casks from all of those in the US, but they've never. That's always been obviously US stuff. It's avoided the SWA regulations. But you're right. So we've got all the SWA side, and that'll get exported as bottled product. If it's a private cask coming from from Scotland, Kilcoman actually already do that, or Kilcoman already doing a few exports of private single casks into the US. So they'll probably be our first one because they're already at it. So.
Just from mentioning it as well, and is there any push for getting American whiskies over to here for Cask Share?
Aye, the other way around.
Westland Balcones.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
And we've spoken to quite a few European distillers as well. A couple from Ireland, Stauning in Denmark, but so they're keen, but obviously there's logistical issues from the vote in 2016 to work out. So once that's sorted, they're keen to work with us on the platform. It was just, everyone, including, even from a RASE perspective, we're getting closer to a solution for Europe, but we're not quite there yet. And I think once that happens, then you'll see some European distillers available in Cask Share too. Cool. I mean, will we hit the Ardnamurchan? Which, you'll all be familiar with them as well. I actually spoke to Connell, their sales director, today on the phone. I didn't share all the tasty notes because they're a bit mixed for me in this one. But, very smoky, vanilla. I found it quite creamy on the palate. I'm going to give it a try today. I mean, hugely smoky in the first instance. I actually found very little to no alcohol burn in it. What is the percentage on this one, actually?
It's cask strength as well, so at 58 point something.
Yeah, I mean, very little burn in alcohol. It's quite commendable, actually, of the spirit quality. A little bit honey, a touch of wood. I found it pleasant, but not particularly bold. It's, particularly, considering the other three are quite heavy in influence in from the casks. Actually, an interesting point I made, and I was thinking yesterday as well when I did these tasting notes, was, to me, it probably shows why Ardnamurchan for their core bottlings have the bourbon and the sherry mix, because it's quite light, to balance out. But interesting to see what you guys have to think on it.
The nose is quite subdued, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. That was pleasant, but no bold flavors. That was my feeling. Although it's so subjective because I'm just having a look at the website flavors, and it's pretty heavy flavors: honeycomb, waxy peel, oyster shells, brine, strawberries, black pepper, and bonfire embers. So that's the wonderful world of whiskey, isn't it? We all get different things.
That's the one that's probably most interesting seeing, because having tried a sample of through a Taste One's Good Spirits company, Ardnamurchan did a Taste One's, and they had a peated cask sample of the Ardnamurchan in a bourbon and a sherry cask. Mm-hmm. And for me, the peated bourbon cask was my favourite, and very much trying this kind of reaffirms that as just the fresh I'm really into. Yeah.
I mean, the Ardnamurchan are doing great things. Your bottles have been well received. The single cask. So we're absolutely delighted to have Ardnamurchan Cask on the platform. I think it's exactly the kind of distillery that we want to work with, I think would be fair to say. And good demand for the casks as well. I mean, the one that was bottling, it's bottled now, isn't it, Ian?
Yeah, they bottled 3 to 4 weeks ago, and they just got with our retail partners at the start of last week. So we're in the process of shipping them out now. So hopefully by the end of next week, all the shares will be dispatched.
And there's three casks, 706p, which is this one, and then I think they were most likely all distilled on the same day because it's 706p, 707p, and 708p.
Yeah.
And as Ewan said earlier, they're bottling 2 years apart. This being the first one, and so we'll see the progression of how that those 2 years added 2 years to the pretty much the same. I know every cask is unique, but this is about as close as you're going to see to the progression over the years.
Mm-hmm. Interesting comment there from Dram and Mick as well, that it's quite like a Port Charlotte. Maybe something to keep an eye on Cask Share. Just a wee wink.
Having tasted it and going back to the nose seems to have opened up.
I'm going to add a touch of water as well.
I'm scared to after the last one.
Just mentioning about the shipping, is there any additional charges? Now, obviously, if it's Europe, you expect that, but in the UK, is there any additional charges for shipping once bottled, or how's that dealt with? Is it
yes, so that's the only. Sorry, but I'll just say that is the only additional charge that you have to pay. So obviously, duty, bottling, VAT, etc., is all covered in the initial payment. The reason we do it like that is obviously, as Scott said, we got casks bottling as far out as 2031. If we take sort of shipping charges, at that time, we can't predict what the shipping cost is going to be in 10 years. It could be less, it could be more. So we obviously send out those invoices just, I would say, about a week before shipping, just so we can collect all those invoices and then just sort of get the bottle shipped out. So yeah, there is a postage and packaging fee at the time of bottling.
And for example, if you take receipt, for instance, for Ardnamurchan, are they shipping direct from them, or are you taking receipt of them and then shipping from there?
So the way it works at the moment is the Isle of Rassay handler bottling. So we move casks up. It depends. Sometimes we move casks up quite early on. The Glen Murray, I think, sat on the Isle of Rassay for about 3 or 4 years now. But we just, for the case of the Ardnamurchan, we just send that up about a month or so before it's ready to be bottled, and then Isle of Rassay handle all the bottling, labelling, everything essentially, and then they used to ship them down to us in our warehouse in Edinburgh, and we handled the fulfillment and the distribution of them. But only recently we've moved and we've got partners over in Glasgow. So now Isle of Rassay sort of handle the bottling and ship them down to our partners in Paisley, and then they distribute them from there.
Brilliant, cheers.
No worries.
And just on that as well, some conversations we're having with distillers, some of them will do it themselves if it suits them. Again, showing flexibility to make sure we get casks up. So
for example, sorry, Scott. For example, our bookie, they're going to bottle their own because they're passionate about this whole farm, single farm sourced. So they want to go all the way, staying on site all the way through to bottle, and yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's good that they're doing that.
Yeah, it's testament to David and Ewan, and for the platform being flexible. I think that's important. If we were very rigid with this modern new approach to single malt, we probably won't get very far. But showing that maneuverability, and I think it's part of our DNA, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Banana is a great tasting note on this.
I was going to say banana bread. Yeah, just at the finish, like sort of malty banana bread.
Yeah, it takes time. By this one, it was probably, hints of honey. Yeah. There's probably more of the distillery DNA in it than the two previous. You can get into the nitty-gritty of the actual distillery. I've been to Ardnamurchan as well. It's an incredible place. I mean, Raleigh's pretty good, but Ardnamurchan's up there as well. It's pretty remote peninsula.
I suppose Ewan as well, looking at like how it works with regards to some casks could be years before you get them. I suppose at some point you can almost do finance as well, couldn't you? On if you were buying a lot of bottles or a lot of expensive bottles, you could have like a 3-year finance on a 3-year kind of leading time kind of thing.
Well, that's actually not a bad. It's not a bad suggestion. Actually, it's not something we've actually thought about. But yeah, because obviously our most expensive bottle up until probably about a month ago now was the Canvas. Our first bottling, and that was 139 to reserve it. But since then, we've got the Arbiki casks, for instance, that are retailing for 250. Early bird offer at the moment for like 220. So I can see for these more sort of chunky reservations, something like that might not be a bad idea, considering you won't be getting maybe some of these for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, you can have that idea, mate. It's free.
Thanks. Yeah, cheers.
Consultancy fee on its way. Three 5 sales of the Glenmurray red wine cask.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I think it's good. Good samples actually, Ian. I think it was good to have the Benriach, rather than the younger red wine cask from Razzie. I think very different. I think it shows the variation in single cask bottlings really well.
100%. Yeah, I think the Cab Sauv took quite a lot of imagination to kind of figure out what it was going to be like. I think quite a lot of the feedback was, it was incredibly punchy, very young. I personally liked it. I quite like, tasting, samples as they mature. But I think, subbing it out for the Benriach probably is a better.
I mean,
guys.
Happy to be totally honest on it. It's just not in the wood, so it's really winey and dry as hell. And I'm allowed to say that because it's Razzie. But once it's another year in, once you get that 2.5 year sample and it's in the wood, the red wine casks totally change. I've sampled the Razzie red wine casks, pretty much every month from about a year onwards, and it changes overnight at around 2.5 years. Obviously not overnight, but a month or two, and it's totally different sample. So as Ewan says, it's quite hard with these young, samples to see where it's going. Good. And on Razzie, we should, the Chinkapin, another totally different whiskey to that, particularly to the Ardnamurchan. Kind of getting through them. We can come back to them as well. I think, big samples. What I would like to say on Razzie, so Anthony and Nikki Watts. So did you say there's an auction?
Yeah, we've got our final auction for this year, basically starting on Thursday, and we obviously got a few things going up on there. And if you can do anything to help us, that'd be great.
Yeah, so look, what I'd like to do is, gets everyone on the website having a look as well. We'll enjoy the whiskey, but I'd like you all to have a look at the Razzie page, and we'll pick a bottle, pick a share to put into the auction. I think if we do it together as such, or put your suggestions in, some interesting casks, and it highlights Cask Share and what the kind of platform can do for distillers.
Awesome, mate.
So yeah, we can
so if people want onto the website while we're drinking this last one and have a look.
Yeah, one of the ways you can do that actually is if you scan the QR code on the side of the label, that should take you to the cask that's in the bottle, and then through there you can navigate through to the website. And yeah, Scott says, have a browse of what Razzie have up at the moment and stick in the chat what your favourite is.
Yeah, there's all sorts. There's for all different bottling dates, 2026, ex-Bordeaux cask, 8-year-old. There's Manzanilla cask, 10-year-old rye casks, bourbon, Four Roses, all sorts. So have a look.
So if
Kind of,
anything jumps out to anyone, just stick it in the chat.
yeah, and we'll put it in, and then you can have a. If you can go in the auction. So
and that's what I believe is one of the main benefits, and one of the great things of what came out of building Cask Share is, this is a perfect example of the Isle of Raasay casks that will probably never be in their mainline releases, but are oddities that they've just agreed to bottle, to fill the cask for us. Like the 2 Australian casks are totally unique, and so it kind of like lets you kind of build this whole portfolio up, which I'm kind of really pleased. And I've got my portfolio is getting quite big actually. All the reservations I've made. So
the tech, it's David and Nick. Nick also works with us. You see, when I see their computer screens, I don't know what's going on. It's all this code everywhere. Like, pretty impressive. It's like a foreign language. Yeah, the Kalila, the Jamaican ram. Although it's got to be a Raasay cask because it's a donation from Raasay with collaboration with Cask Share. You can go and buy the Kalila though. It sold really well. It's actually just been put up. It was put up on Friday. I noticed there's been 17 or 18 bottles gone straight away. Is that right?
Yeah, 19.
Yeah.
19, yeah.
I think it's definitely one of the most interesting Tequila casks I've ever seen. I'm not the biggest fan of Jamaican rum as a cask type myself, just personally. But no, it's definitely really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the kind of different cask that we're looking for again. So right, let me give you the kind of Raasay pitch. So the chinkapin, some of you or most of you will be familiar. So we use it in our core range. This is going to be a 5-year-old. It's one of the oldest samples. You won't get to try a sample that's old direct from the distillery. In terms of coming up with the chinkapin and the charring level, we did actually put 3. We did low, medium, high kind of char. Poured vodka into them, and seeing how that impacted on the vodka to work out how much we wanted. So we went with a high char, high toast. So really what that gives is, it's a dark color, a lot of flavor from the woods at a very early age. In terms of pairings with food, Alistair, our co-founder at Raasay, doesn't particularly like this brand pairing, but I think bacon frazzles, little packs of bacon frazzles you get from the pub, I think that would go pretty well with it.
I've never thought of that before, but I know exactly what you mean.
I think when you think of Raasay and the brand we're trying to build, it's more like smoked salmon or lovely blue cheese rather than a pack of bacon frazzles from the pub. But that's what I get from it. Burnt caramel. It's smoky, but it's not actually high level. So it's 48 to 52 ppm. So it's actually really high in the ppm stakes, but just given the spirit type, quite oily and viscous. But the way it's kind of made, the smoke doesn't translate that heavy. See what you think. What's tasting notes on the website? Where are we? Generous amounts of maltiness, sweet toffee and butterscotch, and vibrant fruit flavors and deep, rich colors. I mean, the dark fruits element is what Raasay kind of trying to do. I don't necessarily always get out of the chinkapin, to be honest, but you do get some dark, deep flavors. So it's a strong cask. See what you think.
I think one of the ways I always explain it is gamey. It's very sort of rich, sort of meaty sort of profile to it.
Yeah. Yeah, colour's great, and I mean, it shows what we're using. Our core bottling is quite young, but we want to come up with good quality young single malt, and this is a massive part of the picture to build it. So about a third of the core range is chinkapin,
They all get green.
Have a touch of water. Good amount of chat. So everyone's been on the website, which is good. Seems to be the Manzanilla is coming out on top. So far.
Yeah, so far we've had Sauvignon, Shiraz, and the Manzanilla at the moment, and the peated X-Rye. Those seem to be the favourites at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, look, it also shows kind of where we want to go, like explaining to distilleries as well, and obviously Razi is a support to the platform. Is that it's a different strand. It's not cannibalizing sales for the actual distillery because it's different casks, different maturation periods, and it's a different channel completely. Kind of people we want to use Cask Share, or people we see are real whiskey enthusiasts. They're going to get into the granular kind of details of what they want. So we're getting there with casks. There's going to be a lot more casks up in the next kind of 12 months. Big plans to get a lot more choice and range. So hopefully this gives a little flavour of what we're trying to do.
How have you found the tastings been going that you've been doing with other groups? So they've been quite receptive to what you're doing?
I think so. Yeah, we've done a couple now. It's just kind of a relatively new thing we're doing, but it's whiskey clubs and groups, and you and David have done events as well. Just trying to get. For us, really, it's about showing the platform. That's the first and foremost thing. We need people to learn about it. Sorry, guys, do you have anything to kind of add to that?
No, 100%. Yeah, no, and I think like Scott's right in saying we've not been doing these tastings for, I think this could be like our fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've only sort of been to a few sort of shows so far. Again, as I was saying earlier, we only sort of launched it sort of March, so this is just when we're sort of getting it about. And I think, without sounding too I think they're being received quite well. Obviously, the selection on Cask Share is pretty cool, and it's nice that we can draw down some of these quite cool samples. So yeah, I think the idea is actually been quite well received, which is really nice for us, and it's nice to see what was sort of an idea sort of come to fruition, and yeah, being received by what is essentially our core. Groups like this is who we built it for. Like genuine whiskey lovers, and it's really cool to see it being so well received.
Yeah, I imagine it's always quite hard once you start doing these tastings and it's your first ones and things. Must be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, we've only been doing it, like I said, not too long, so it's still relatively new to us. But we're chatting to really cool groups, so it's always nice when we're talking to
I've done a lot of hosting in person before COVID, so not really nervous about public speaking. And the first tasting I did online, I'm so glad it wasn't recorded. I was an absolute wreck. Just such a strange thing, because in a room, good or bad, you at least know what people are thinking, and you can move with the room and the general vibe. But there was like 100 people on this tasting. You get used to it eventually.
Yeah, I think people have started putting in their kind of order of favourites of the night. So if you have a look at them, Scott and Ewan, can you give us your kind of? You must have your favourite kind of the way they go in the form.
Yeah, I think if you're doing these tastings in terms of showcasing Cask Share, probably the Ben Riach, because it is very different. So for me, that's highlights what Cask Share is about. It's not really about your bog standard bottles. So yeah, I'm not going to put them in a 1, 2, 3, 4 because I work for Razi. So, but for me, the Ben Riach's the standout in terms of showcasing the platform, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The Ben Riach is quite, something quite special. I do have to say though, although it is, quite stereotypical, 6 years in ex-bourbon, the Iron American is, sorry Scott, but the Iron American is really, really quite nice. It's probably my favourite personally. But yeah, like Scott says, the Ben Riach, it does sort of show kind of what we're all about, you know, cool cast types and, you know, something a little bit different and, you know, definitely for the whiskey lover.
Actually, this is the best for samples unit that we put together, I think, because it showcases it better. Like, there's actually a good range and different things too. I mean, you know, the difference between the Ardent American and the Razzie is night and day in terms of what the cask's doing and what the single, you know, what the casks are. I mean, that, you know, think about where that Razzie is going to be at 5 years in comparison to the Ardent American. Not in a positive or negative way, and it's just so different, isn't it?
Oh no, 100%. Yeah, and I think that's like one of the really cool things about Cask Share is you do get to taste whiskey along their journey, and you do kind of get that experience of kind of trying to foresee what casks are going to be like. So especially with something like the Chinkapin, which does impart so much flavour really quickly, compared to something like sort of ex-bourbon, which, you know, takes a wee bit more time to sort of mature. Yeah, no, it is. It's really cool to sort of see what sort of different distilleries are doing and kind of get the ins and outs of their sort of cask type, their spirit type, and, you know, what they're kind of doing to sort of be dynamic within their own industry.
I'm just reading through the orders. It's quite mixed, which is good, actually.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It shows that, yeah, I mean, okay, I don't want to talk about Razzie too much, but if you're doing it with general public tastings, the Chinkapin always wins because it's further ahead in terms of development. But obviously with whiskey groups, you know, people like yourselves that are passionate and understand it, you know, you can see past that. That's why you're getting all these different answers.
Dude, I mean, we've done a lot of tastings, and I'd say this is probably one of the most varied in order that we've had. Usually there's quite a similar kind of order, but this is all over the place. So I think it's just because all four are so good, people are having trouble kind of putting them in any order. So, I mean, that's nice to hear, I would imagine, for you guys.
That's always a good thing, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
They're all good as well. It's they're all very varied as well. It's, you know, the lighter style from the Ben Riach, that heavier wine influence from the Glenmurray, and two very different styles of peat from Ardent American and Razzie.
Yeah, definitely. And then Dave's asking how many years will Chinkapin be able to go. I mean, we're going to go. This one's a 5-year-old sample. You know, there's individuals own Chinkapin casks. You know, we will encourage them to bottle it under the 10-year mark. You know, its influence is very heavy, which is a good thing. You know, it's what we want. And, you know, Chinkapin oak is a different type of American oak. It's a subspecies of Quercus alba called Quercus muhlenbergi. For the tree lovers out there, but it's more expensive, better quality. That's the long and short of it.
Do you do the tasting packs just for tasting events, or do you sell them regularly kind of on the website?
So we're actually just tying up what will be our essentially sort of member side of the platform. Hopefully we can get that public in the next couple of weeks, and that it does include 2 annual tasting packs, so like one every sort of 6 months. And I think at the moment we're sort of, is it 6, David? 6 samples that we're sending out per pack?
Yeah, that's right.
And essentially we'll be showcasing sort of what's kind of cool on the platform at that point in time. For instance, earlier when they mentioned it'd be cool to have the Mark Renier casks, you know, we'd have cool stuff like that in the pack, along with sort of like cool sort of new casks that are on at that time. You also sort of get other things, sort of like the barrel bank, which I guess, Anthony, is kind of what you're saying in terms of like financing, which is kind of like Virgin Wines, where you sort of pay money every month. And then with that money, you accumulate discounts. So you can sort of rack up, funds within your account that you can use then on sort of cash shares. You get other sort of cool perks like that. But essentially, we will be sending out tasting packs to our members once that launches, hopefully within the next, hopefully the next like 2 weeks.
Awesome. Is that going to be like a monthly payment or a yearly thing, or?
It'll be at the moment it's an annual payment. So it'll be a one-off annual payment that you pay, and then that will cover your 2 packs and a year's long subscription, where you do obviously get discounts, and I think discounts on all the casks we're doing at the moment. and yeah, obviously access to the barrel bank, which is the funds that you regularly, monthly can put in.
Yeah, you come up with a clever name for it, or
It's called our Cask Share Collective.
oh, there you go. That's the one. there's always a name, and you've got to come up with a clever name for it.
Has to be something. It can't just be membership program. It has to be something cool.
No, that's great. So, going back to the auction, then I suppose. How are we going to choose which one we go for? Because we've got like a few. I think we should probably you guys pick one, being as your. I mean, if I give you the ones that have come up, then you can pick one out of those if you want for us.
Yeah. I think just is there one that's kind of out in front, or I feel like the Manzanilla. It seemed to me like a few more of them, maybe.
I reckon.
But happy for whatever.
Unless you do a hands up, maybe do a hands up. So let's put your hands up if you would want the Manzanilla. One, two.
What are the choices? Or can you vote more?
You
It
can
doesn't matter. Put your hand up for as many as you want, Frank. What about the Shiraz? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, that is. Okay, so that's winning at the moment. Sauvignon?
I'll pick that one as well.
2, 3. Oh, that's it. That's not that one. So that's not that one. The Peated X Rye. 1, 2. Tom wants them all. 2 for that one. Did I miss one? Done the Shiraz. The Chinkapin. No, that's not getting in there. Oh, 1, 2. That's that one done. I've done Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Sauvignon did that one. So I'd say it was the Manzanilla was 2, wasn't it? So it's the Shiraz then with 5 votes. Unless anyone's got another one they want to put up. Say it now, or it's too late. There you go then, mate. It is the Shiraz.
Deal.
Done. Job done. So if you can send me over the details that I would need for that, maybe by Wednesday at the latest, if you can.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, we'll
And
chat
then,
this.
We'll get that on there. Thank you so much, mate. That's going to be wonderful. It'll help us raise. It's our last auction, the last thing we're going to be doing for myeloma for this year. So it'd be nice to get up there. I think we're going to blow past the $7,000 quite easily now. So all thanks to people like you coming on and helping us, to be honest.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, yeah, no, thank you guys as well. Like, this is, you're a great group. Good to, share the platform and what we're doing, and some decent whiskies hopefully as well. So, are
you guys going to be at any festivals next year? You kind of signed up for any yet that people can catch up you in person?
For next year, no, not officially, but we do try and get to as many as we can. We have the National Whisky Festival in Edinburgh on the 11th of December, I think it is. Somewhere around the start of December. I think it's the 11th. So we'll definitely be at that. And I think there's one in Manchester that we're sort of toying with the idea of going maybe at the start of next year. But officially, no, not just now, but I think we will try and get to a good few at the start of next year.
Yeah. And David's the boss.
Yeah.
David's the boss, so it's up to him. But I think probably festivals are a good thing to go to just raise awareness. Because for us, it's probably awareness is the key thing right now.
100%.
So, yeah. Sorry, David.
No, I was just saying, did you see the list of festivals that went up on LinkedIn a couple of days ago?
Yeah.
Glencairn guys. Yeah, it's a big
you could do
list.
it on a week, couldn't you?
Some of
the CEOs do.
Yeah.
You'll see Tom at all of them. Well, it's been a pleasure, guys. I think
just one last thing.
Oh yeah, I have got one question I've got to ask you all because I will get hounded if I don't ask you. So I'm going to ask you one at a time. Scott, is Die Hard a Christmas film?
It is a Christmas film because it's synonymous with Christmas.
There you go. Luna will be screaming because she's the only person who thinks it isn't a Christmas film.
Well, let's see what the other two
David, don't feel any pressure just because she's watching. Is Die Hard a Christmas film?
Yeah.
Luna, it's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good at all. And Ewan, you're going to go, is it a Christmas film?
Die Hard is 100% a Christmas film.
There you go. Look, Luna, you can drop out now if you want.
It's not a traditional Christmas film. It's not a. It's definitely a Christmas film. It's set at Christmas as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's almost Christmas time, yeah.
Yeah, we've said this. He actually puts a Christmas hat on and puts ho 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 on someone that he kills, doesn't he? So it's 100% a Christmas film.
Yeah.
Guys, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I know it was a long time coming and we had a few hiccups along the way, but it's been a pleasure and a fantastic evening. The samples were exquisite. I would say all of them. I enjoyed every single one of them.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's been great.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you. Thank you very much.
Slams, guys. Thanks again. And look,
yeah, guys, have a great Christmas, and hopefully we'll do something with you again in the new year. And maybe in a year's time we'll get them personalised labels on some of your bottles.
yeah, there you go.
No, that sounds great.
Thanks to you both, and thanks everyone else for joining us tonight. Pleasure. Cheers,
Thank
Andrew.
you.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Man,
Cheers. Thanks,
Cheers,
bye.
guys. Thank you.